Hi, we're going to go over the new sky replacement tool in Photoshop. So let's get started. You need to have Photoshop open and an image loaded into Photoshop that has a sky in it. And as you see, I have a landscape here that has a sky that's not too exciting. So let's try putting a new one in and see what happens. I'm going to show you how to add new skies import them into the tool, and I'm going to tell you about how to get some more. So let's go looking, and then we'll go over the sliders of how to use it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go up to the main toolbar at the top, and you're going to go to the edit. Click on that. You go about halfway down the path, and you'll see sky replacement. You're going to click on it. It will open a window, and whatever sky you see up there, it's going to insist on opening before you choose another one. So whether you want that particular sky in this particular image, it doesn't matter. You're going to get to see what it looks like. So you have to sit there and wait for it to do that. So as you can see, here it is. So let's say we don't want this sky. Where do we go to get more skies? Where are they? It's the only one I see. So if I click on this thumbnail or hit this little down arrow, it will open another window. And in that window, you will see some folders. They call them groups, but they look like little folders. And so you'll see the top one is my skies, so Jackie's skies. I have imported some photos that I've taken of skies and prepped them all, and I've brought them in and put them in to a variety of folders within here. And so I will continue to build those and use my own skies. The next three groups are ones that are preloaded into Photoshop. So when you open this for the first time, you will see these same three groups, and if you open them, you will get to use any of the skies that are within those. Those, like I said, are preloaded into Photoshop, and everybody that has Photoshop CC has got the same skies. So if you would like to use them, they're there for you. If you want your own, it's kind of fun to build your own library. I am giving you a folder that has 11 skies in it that I have personally taken that you're free to use. So I'm going to show you how to get those import those into Photoshop here in just a minute. The next one is free, so that one came from Matt Kloskowski's website, and I loaded that one in. The next five are some that are considered more images from Photoshop. So again, everyone that has Photoshop CC has the opportunity to download these same images. If you would like them, I'm going to show you how to get them. So there's a little gear right here. If you click on it, it opens this flyout window, and at the very bottom it says Get More Skies. If I click on that, it will take me to a web page where you will see these 5 packets listed, and you can download each one of them as I have, or choose which ones you want. I don't know if you can get into them to see the skies that are available before you download them or not, but give it a try if you want. Look around, see if you can see that. They also include instructions on how you do get the downloaded files into Photoshop. It's pretty much a drag and drop type thing, but you can check that video out also. If you don't see this Get More Skies on this flyout menu, it means you aren't on the current version of Photoshop, so you'll want to do an update to get that. All right, so let's get back into how you load your images or the ones that I'm giving you to use. So how do you do that? Well, you come down to the bottom of this panel and you'll see a little folder. Again, they call them groups, and a little icon that says has a plus symbol. So we're going to use both of those. The first one we're going to use is this group. We're going to click on it, opens this window, and we're going to type in the name of the group of pictures we're going to install or upload into this. So we're just call those Jackie's sampler set, or skies. We'll say skies. And say OK. And you'll notice it put that group down here at the very bottom of the stack. It's open right now, but you see no skies in there because we haven't brought those in. So let's import those. We're going to go back to the bottom. We're going to hit this plus button. Now you need to know where that file folder is with the images that you want to bring in, whether it's your images or mine or someone else's. you need to find the file folder that has those images in it, and mine are all high quality, high res JPEGs. So find whether you put them in, are they still in the downloads? Are they in a document file? Are they in desktop pictures? Where are they? Once you've located them, it does not import the folder itself. That's why we just made a group, but we just are going to bring the pictures in. So I'm going to click on the top one, and then I'm going to go down and shift click on the bottom. We've highlighted them all, so now it'll bring all of them in at one time. I went down to the bottom corner, hit open, and it is now in the process of opening them. You don't see them coming in individually, but it will populate inside this group when all 11 are loaded up. Now, when I named these, I just pulled them in no particular order, so you'll see that the sunsets and the sun during the day shots are all intermixed. If you would prefer to have all your daytime clouds in one at the top and all your sunsets at the bottom or so on, you can simply drag and drop these into place. Just pull them up and let go. Pull up another one, let it go. And so you can do that until all of them are in place. Now all the daytime shots are at the beginning and all the sunsets are below. This was a daytime picture, so our go-to would be, well, let's use a daytime sky. So we could say click on one of these daytime skies, which there was one, here's another. Or you could try for fun and see how one of the sunsets work. Can I turn this into a late evening shot? I think we could. You know, here's another one, late evening, you know, twilight type thing. Or do we go totally sunset? It kind of works. So you can play around with them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But it's fun to see. So let's go ahead and we'll just use this daylight one. And now that I've selected it, I want to get rid of these pictures over here so I can see what I'm doing with those sliders. So all you have to do is click back up here anywhere, just click on it and they'll go away. If I want them back, click on the sky, click off to the side and they'll go away. So let's go over some of these sliders. Well, we'll go over all of them. As you bring in a new sky, you'll notice the scale is at 100. It always is at 100, which means it's fitting from left to right. So the width is the same size of your sky as your image. So if you wanted to move your sky over a little bit, you'll notice you have a gap now. So you can't just, whoops. There's some, if you do this like I just did, and I've downsized my image, I don't want to do that. Let's bring it back up. And I want to move it around, so I got to make sure my move tool is on my cursor. So it's up at the upper left. Click on it, and then I can shift it around. You can't see, so let's move this over. So you can see the gap here. So I got to get that filled back up. Now, if you do want to move it, you just have to upscale it. So we could say increase our scale to say 126. I just arbitrarily pick that number, and it will make the sky larger. So I have more room to maneuver my clouds side to side. You always want to make sure that you don't have a gap on the left, right, top, or bottom, because you'll see that hard edge of that image. So we got to make sure that's scooched over. And we'll say that that looks pretty good. We have plenty of room on this particular image to go up and down. So we don't have to worry too much about that, but you won't see that hard edge on there. You want to make sure that never is above the horizon. So tuck that underneath there. Check your sides, make sure the sides look good. If you want to zoom in, you can just do a Command plus a couple times and get closer. Or you can come over here and grab this little magnifier glass and click on it, because that will zoom it in too. All right, so let's look at these sliders now, and I'll explain. These first two are affecting how the sky is relating to the top edge of the horizon. We'll call it the horizon. In this case, it's mountains, but it's where the sky meets the land. And So if I do a significant pull on this, I'm going to go all the way to 100 minus, you'll see that clouds that I had in there originally, they just go away. Well, what it is it's like a mask that they put on there, the shape of this landscape. And it pulls upward. So when I'm at minus 100, it's pulled all the way up here. So it's masking out. It's hiding the new sky for that distance. If I start sliding it towards 0, you can see that it will shift, that mask is shifting towards the horizon. And it's not a hard mask, it's a gradual mask. So it becomes a little bit softer as as you get, so you don't see as much. It's not as obvious that you're seeing the sky from behind it as you were when we were at minus 100. If we go above, so we're at the plus numbers, if we zoom in here, let's see if I can do this so you can see better. And I'm going to slide this, oops, I don't want to slide, I'm going to slide the whole picture over, not just the sky. So let's watch this mountain. If I go to shift edge to plus 100, look what it did to the rocks here. And it did it all the way along there, but it was just really obvious here. So what happens is the lighter areas, it starts letting the new sky show through on the lightest areas of the picture for a certain area of the picture too. It doesn't do it all the way down, but it will do a part of it. And it's where the sky is behind this, so it starts letting the sky through. So as we pull it back, you can see it diminish a little bit. Oops, I'm on the wrong slider. It starts getting back to the natural look. So you want to make sure, if you're doing the shift edge, that you don't shift it to the point where you're starting to have sky intrude on your foreground area. So you can decide where it works. And sometimes it's a good thing to do, because sometimes it will help you blend things together better, but you just don't want to go over the top with that. Now the fade edge is similar but different. So if I pull it all the way back to 0, it's doing no fading at all. It's not blending this to background, this new sky with the foreground at all. But if I start to pull, let's pull this shift edge back to 100, minus 100, so you can really see what it's doing. It's taking it a second to do its thing, but it is doing it. Let's come over here a little bit. So if I now fade the edge, it was at 0, so it wasn't, but if I start moving it toward 100, it starts letting, there we just finally caught it, starts letting, there's the original sky, and it starts letting that through, so it fades it in. And the farther I get to 100, the more the original sky can fade through for the distance that you gave the shift edge. So the shift edge is really the distance that the fade goes up, and the fade is the amount that is faded in. So shift edge is the distance, and fade is the amount of the original sky that you're letting through. And sometimes it's necessary to let some through, and sometimes you don't need to let any through. So it just depends on the picture and how easily the new sky fits with the old sky. If you actually have clouds in the old sky, and you do too much of the shift stuff and the fade stuff, you start seeing those clouds bleeding through, and so you want to make sure that if they're bleeding through, that they look good. And so that's something to be aware of. This next section, let's back out here a minute, is brightness. So if you think the sky needs to be lightened up, you would go to the plus side, and if you think it needs to be darkened down, you'll go into the minus side. Let's see, I pulled that up. Let's pull that down. So we'll just get it back close to 0. If you think it needs to be warmer, you can go to the yellow. If you want it cooler, you go towards the blue. And scaling we talked about. If you flip it, that means it's a mirror image of what it looked like before. So there you see it, it just flipped it side to side. Where this really comes in handy, and you can use it aesthetically, if you like the way the sky looks better flipped, then use it that way. Sometimes it's more of a directional light thing. If you have a directional light on your scene, on your foreground, then you want to make sure that the directional light of your sky matches it. So therefore, you would want to flip it so that it's correct. A dark scene like this comes in as multiply. Another option is to have it come, if it was a lighter scene, it would come in as screen. It chooses, but you can shift it. You can see how it gets a little hazy when I shift a dark scene towards screen, excuse me. So we'll leave it with what it is. I usually leave it, but you can change it if it makes it look more as to what you want. It automatically sets these where it thinks it should be. This lighting adjustment is trying to match the lighting of the front edge of the foreground with the sky and the color too. So like if we went with a sunset, we'll say, and it was real pink and it wasn't giving us enough color matching on the foreground, we could pull that to the right and get more color matching for the sky onto the foreground. The next part is a duplicate layer, or the output. So you can choose one of two, duplicate layer or new layers. New layers brings in the whole process in layer form. Let's just give this some stuff for it to remember so we can see more. Brighten. We're going to just change this up so that, see how many layers we can get. Duplicate layer flattens all the layers down into one. So let's see what it looks like when it's new layers. So if you're somebody that likes to dink around with the layers, you'll see it all opened up. And you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this particular time because I moved some of the sliders. The fewer sliders you move, the less layers you have to manipulate. But you can go in here and move these around if you like to edit in Photoshop and you have all kinds of things you want to do. You can certainly go in and change. I just want to bring to your, if you're somebody that's going to mess with them, be aware that they've dropped the connection links out between these masks and this image. So if you want to put them back, you can just click in here and it'll come back on. And this way you can move it around without changing the mask. But if you want it to move together, then you would click on there and get your chain link back. And then you can close it up and you're good to go. Had we brought in, chose duplicate layer, it would have just said background copy and it would have had the new look to the sky, but it would have not had those layers accessible to you. So that's all there is to it. Now on my example, I just am bringing this to your thought, is if you have a sky replacement and you have water in the foreground, your reflection is not going to match unless you put your reflection sky in the reflection, which Photoshop sky replacement knows skies are at the top. So you can't really do it unless you take and you would come up here and say make a copy by doing a Shift Alt Command E and you do a visible stamp here and then you have this copy of it, and now at this point I could do a Command T and you'll see my transform tools on there, and I will just want to shift it. I knew I would pick the wrong one, I always do, sorry. A vertical flip, and so now you can take it back into, let's just try it. So we'll accept this, and now let's go back to edit, sky replacement, and we'll see if it picks up on the water. It can usually sense the water at the top being the sky, but this grass may throw it off. And so, yeah, it seemed, no, it's still working. Oh, it did, it put them in there. So that's awesome. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it sees that grass and doesn't know what to do with it. So you would just want to make sure that it's kind of lined up. And what you might want to do is it the same color, because you might want to darken it when it's in the water. So we'll bring down our brightness. just a little bit. And you could possibly cool it off a little because it's in water. And we'll just say okay. And so now we have another sky group. And so let's do another Shift, Command, Option, Alt, Option, and do another visible, oops. Shift, Alt, Command, E. There we go. Now let's do a transform. And let's go and do that flip, get it back to the way it should be. And now you have a sky in your reflection that matches your sky there. So you have lost the ripples a little bit. So that's why it's kind of handy to have where you could access it and maybe do a little manipulation, get your water reflection little marks in there. Anyway, that's all I got for you. So play around with it, see what you can do, and have fun. Bye.